Resident Evil 2.
Resident Evil 2. Probably the most popular of all the classic Resident Evils, the GameCube remake of the first game is most likely considered the best game, but significantly more people played 2. 2 is a fan favorite. It has the most sales of any game in the series on a single platform, with almost 5 million on the PlayStation, in addition to being ported to many other consoles. Due to its reputation, it was the classic game I looked forward the most to playing. It did not disappoint. I think the 2002 remake is a better game, but it's entirely possible I like 2 more. What makes it stand out and why is it so good 20 years later? It's a classic RE, so you know it's gotta have fixed camera angles. And if you have fixed cameras, then you also gotta have tank controls, unless you want it to be super disorienting. Honestly, I find the topic of fixed cameras and tank controls kinda exhausting. I like them. I think they're fine. I am not, however, one of those people who think Resident Evil is not Resident Evil without these attributes in every game not made in this style sucks and is a disgrace to the series. I don't think that. I do really like fixed cameras though. The games wouldn't really be possible in the PS1 hardware without them, and independent of that, they have their own merits. The developers at all times know what the player is looking at. They can hide zombies around corners and hide secrets, it looks more cinematic. It adds to the fear/tension because the player is uncomfortable, because they can't see everything they'd like to see and have no control over the situation. Tank controls aren't the smoothest thing in the world, but after like 45 minutes at worst, you'll become at least competent. And after a few hours, you'll be a pro. This isn't a game where you need to make a lot of quick inputs, and for the game it is in, they work fine, even if they aren't totally natural or smooth feeling. I have absolutely zero issues with them now, but man are they awkward when you first start out. In Resident Evil 2, you play as Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield. Raccoon City has gone to hell, and everyone inside is a zombie. Yada yada, you know what it's about, I assume. Leon and Claire have a chance meeting, but get separated and then head to the Raccoon City Police Department. In Resident Evil 1, you could play as Chris or Jill, but it was essentially the same game, with the only difference being who their partner character was. Here, the changes are more substantial. Leon and Claire have unique weapons, their own main side character, another different side character, completely different plots, and some small unique areas only they visit. But in addition to that, there's the A-B scenario. The game is meant to be played twice in a row, and whichever character you play as second is in the B scenario. The B scenario mixes things up a bit. That means there's 4 variations of the main game. There's Leon A, Claire B if you play as Leon first, and there's Claire A, Leon B. For the purposes of this review, I will mainly be referring to everything in the Claire A, Leon B context. It's considered the more canon of the choices, I consider it the better experience, and it's the version I recorded. I've played through the game that way like 4 times compared to Leon A, Claire B only once. For the record, I first played this game in October of 2016. Alright, let's finally get to the game. The game starts off with a short recap of RE1 and then has a decently lengthy, horrifying CGI cutscene. These look kinda cool in 1998, I guess, but are laughable now. They're both hilarious to look at and kinda horrifying. They are by far the element of the game that's aged the worst. You get a different intro depending on who you were playing as, but Leon and Claire meet and drive off to the police station. Leon gets attacked by a zombie with the same haircut as him, which always makes me laugh. Crash, separation, game start. So this game has a lot more action than the original. The game's respective openings illustrate that best. In the original, you had 2 rooms with no enemies, the famous reveal that had 1 zombie, you went back through an empty room to the main hall, explored the whole empty main hall, you had a build-up to the first enemy encounter, then a cooldown after just 1 zombie. Then a bit later, there are some more enemies. And even after that point, it's not like they are constantly appearing. Here, from the very first second you take control in the game, you are surrounded by zombies. And there's an explosion and a bunch of fire in the background. There is 7 zombies in that first room. It takes 8 rooms before you enter the RPD. There are 7 like I just said in that first screen. Then it goes 4, 4, 4 again, 4 more, 2, 6, and 2 before the entrance. That's 33 zombies before you even enter the RPD and the real game starts. To put that in perspective, there is 50 zombies in all of RE1. None of this is a bad thing. The games are going for different things. Also, it's a sequel, and we know that zombies are in Resident Evil, so a slow build-up would not be as effective. The intro is certainly interesting and draws people in, which is really all you can ask for in a video game. But it still has some problems. Like I said, there's 8 rooms with 33 zombies, and you don't get a single healing item until you reach the RPD. There's no area to practice with the controls and get used to how movement in the game works. On one hand, that certainly increases the tension. It's super intense figuring out things as you're running for your life, but it seems a little unfair to new players. Luckily, I had played Remake and Nemesis before this game, so I was used to tank controls. I recommend starting with 2 to someone who has not played a classic Resident Evil, but this intro could be seriously frustrating. You have to go a long way dodging enemies without any heals, and if you get down to danger, you're pretty much done at that point, considering how slow you move. At least they should be a pro by the time they reach the police station. I guess maybe you could consider it like a proto RE4 intro, if you look at it that way. As it stands, I think this is a good intro to the game, even if it's not representative of the rest of the game. It starts fast, it's pretty interesting, and if you're good, it's pretty short. It also increases the threat of zombies because there's a decent chance you'll die your first time through, and that'll just make them more scary. The RPD, the real star of the game. The RPD is the second most memorable location in the series, and I think the main hall is the most iconic music in the series. There are 3 main locations in Resident Evil 2, the police station, the sewers, and the underground lab. The RPD is by far the longest, most interesting, and best area of the game. So I'm going to talk you through it, the beginning part here, and talk about the level design and what a player would be thinking. And I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I don't really have a point I'm working toward here. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I just think it might be interesting to talk about, and maybe you can draw your own conclusions. So Claire enters the station. These 2 doors are locked, so you go through here. You meet Marvin, the last surviving member of the RPD, and the only still living cop you'll see the whole game. He gives you a card that you can use on the computer in the main hall to unlock the 2 doors. This door leads to a hallway with a bunch of enemies, so a new player would probably turn around and leave. This one leads to an item box room and one of the more memorable scenes in the game. You see something pass by the window and enter the next room. Enter this. Meet the Licker. Remember how I said this game didn't have a zombie reveal? That's because it saved its enemy introduction cutscene for the elite enemy of the game. Lickers are the hunters of this game. They both do a ton of damage and are harder to kill compared to a regular zombie. They both have leaping claw attacks, but while hunters hunted and ran up to get in your face, Lickers are a little more complex. They can't hear you if you walk slowly. If you run, shoot a weapon, or bump into them, then they will attack. But if you walk slowly, it's possible to sneak by them. The problem with this approach is they are mostly placed in small, cramped hallways, and there's a decent chance you will alert them if you try to sneak by. This leads to some thought in how you want to approach these guys. If you try to stealth it but fail, then that means they are right next to you and you will take some damage. You can try to take them out from a distance, but their long-range attacks with their tongue, and especially the jump attack, do significantly more damage than the normal claw swipe. So if you don't kill them before they get to you, you'll take a lot more damage this way. Lickers are an interesting enemy with multiple ways to approach them, a killer intro, and an interesting visual design. They also have great sound design. Whenever you enter a room with them, you hear this. This both scares you, because you're like, oh crap, there's Lickers here, and is supremely helpful game information. Now you know that you should walk. If this sound didn't exist, then players would just run right into them and get wrecked, and it'd be super frustrating. The breathing makes it fair and really ramps up the tension when you hear it, and take those slow steps not being able to see them, but knowing they are there. Clear upgrade over hunters. Anyway, back to progression. Since you only have a handgun at this point, and they look scary, a new player will probably try to run past them. Either a player dies and tries again and doesn't get sent back that far because it's highly likely they saved when they first entered the station, or they make it. This next area has no enemies and a room that is optional for now. All you can do here is see a puzzle that cannot be solved yet if you were playing Claire A, and find some lore that gives story information and names the Lickers. The player then goes through this hallway and there's 4 zombies, there's some health in a save room, and progresses up the stairs. Then a puzzle which doesn't give you anything that's immediately useful, then the STARS office. The STARS office has a lot in it, but in terms of progression, you'll get the unicorn medal. This door here is locked, so the player now has to backtrack to the main hall. The journey is made more interesting because now zombie arms will grab you through the boards, and now you have the grenade launcher, so you can take out that Licker. In the main hall, you get the first key. It's likely you know where it goes, which is the hallway next to the STARS office, so you head back there. You get some story progression, head to the second floor of the main hall, kick down a ladder, and that's when the game really opens up and you have a ton of choices on what to do next. But let's talk about backtracking. The backtracking in this game is handled superbly. Backtracking in video games is kinda considered a dirty word. It's not something a lot of early reviewers were equipped to handle. I don't want to act like I'm smarter than everybody, but frequently you will see in game reviews the reviewer will mention having to go back to places they have already been, and instantly mark it down as a negative and take a point out of the score. They don't spend a lot of time telling you what type of backtracking is being done. When there's no thought put into it, then yeah, backtracking is super boring and sucks. But there are entire genres based on exploring previous areas again. Resident Evil 2 has a lot of thought put into how you revisit its areas. In addition to things they can't control, such as the player's fluctuating ammo and health that can make certain journeys more tense, the game frequently changes things around. Like I mentioned before, near the start of the game, you go through this corridor after the liquor. There's nothing in it the first time, but after you get the unicorn medal, zombies start grabbing you through the boards. After you get the first key, one zombie and one Sherry appear in the corridor outside the STAR's office. In the second floor of the main hall, there's 4 zombies. The player probably killed them the first time they passed through, and have made many trips safely through there, with nothing happening. After you get the last key, a liquor appears. As you can see, they frequently mix up the enemy placements and add new ones to previously cleared rooms to keep things fresh. That's not the only trick they have though. What your goal is when you backtrack makes it more enjoyable. Here, let me give an example of what backtracking might be like in a hypothetical bad game. In a bad game, not only would you be traveling through areas that are exactly the same as they were the first time and feature respawning enemies, but what you would be working to would be boring. In a bad game, you'd go through the area, arrive at a point, realize you can't progress, head back, get a thing or do a thing, and then head back to the goal. Once you have what you need, there is no enjoyment on the way to the goal. You aren't doing any more thinking, it's just a boring delivery of the item. In RE2, because the map is densely packed, usually your goal isn't at the end of an area. In RE2, the places you backtrack to are usually in the middle of areas you have been before, and you're heading to a door that you've already seen and it's been locked this whole time. It has teased you for a while, and you're excited to go there and see a new room, because usually the rooms are visually interesting in this game. You also have a lot in your mind, because there's probably some puzzles you have seen but haven't solved yet. Both the locked door tease intrigues, and the hope that you find something that makes you go, oh good, now I can go do that other thing. Another thing I didn't mention is you open up several shortcuts. You connect the 2 floors in the main hall, can unlock Marvin's room, there's stairs connecting the east side, and at one point as Leon, he just jumped down like a vent like 3 floors to where you need to go because it's really far away and they don't want to waste your time. You know, it actually reminds me of Dark Souls, the way you can create shortcuts to connect areas together. I'm just kidding. I know Dark Souls wasn't the first game to do that. Never even played Dark Souls actually. Resident Evil 2 isn't even like that at all. They're completely different. I was just making fun of how Dark Souls gets constantly brought up whenever people talk about games, usually referring to difficulty like it's the only hard game ever made. When you are going around doing all these things, it gives you a chance to solve other puzzles. There's a lot of long-term items you need to get before you can leave the police station. You could be making progress in the game without them, but at some point you need them. That means you can take care of getting them while just trying to advance in the game. For instance, these red rooms all have puzzles or things in them that don't need to be done until the very end of the station. With the exception of this starred room, it also has a key. You can progress through the game without visiting or solving anything in these rooms. But doing all the backtracking in the game isn't just so you can get keys to get to new areas, but it also gives you a chance to solve these rooms at your own pace and just have more to do. Backtracking while thinking and doing multiple things at once makes it more interesting. Anyway, the police station is masterfully designed. Playing optimally makes everything go by super fast, but even if you screw up and go somewhere without the correct thing, the item boxes are spaced super great. The basement is the only place where there isn't one place super close by. Boss fights. Boss fights in classic Resident Evil aren't really a thing that's good. That is the major flaw of the Tank Control's fixed camera system. Boss fights basically come down to, do you have ammo for your most powerful weapon? If yes, then you win. If not, then you better have some heals. With these controls, there's not really any skill in aiming, and dodging attacks is really annoying. I really missed a quick turn in this game. It just takes forever to turn around to shoot the bosses. There's about 2 fights that could be considered tough in this game. Claire A's final boss and the train fights could be tough. I do give credit to one thing, it's that Leon and Claire don't share any bosses to get unique fights. Claire ends the RPD with the G embryo, while Leon fights Pipe Birkin, G1. Claire fights Birkin in G2 form on the train, and Leon fights G3. And then Claire ends with the G4 dog form Birkin, which is the toughest fight in the game. You can kill in yellow caution, it's really hard to hit. Leon ends with the super form of Mr. X, who is pitiful. Even though these bosses aren't actually fun to fight, I do have to praise the visual designs. They all look pretty cool and are memorable. and there's usually some cool music with the nice atmosphere to these fights. This game is the easiest classic RE, but that's not a bad thing. Most of the ways it's easier compared to the original or Code Veronica is just by making things fairer and less cheap. However, there's one area I think they overcorrected on the difficulty, and it makes the game too easy. Magnum ammo. In Resident Evil 1, as Jill, there's 3 packs of Magnum ammo you can find with 6 bullets each. Add the 6 you start with, and that's 24. Nemesis is kinda hard to count because you can make your own, but there's 16 you can find in-game. Code Veronica is the most extreme. There's only 18 bullets in the whole game. You can find 2 packs, but one is really hard to find, and the Magnum itself is really easy to miss in that game. You want to know how much Magnum ammo there is in RE2? In Leon B, there's 8 packs with 8 bullets each. That is 64 bullets, plus the 8 the Magnum comes with. And if you knock Mixed X down, you can get 2 more packs for a potential of 88 Magnum rounds. That might be enough to kill every enemy in the game only using the Magnum. I get that in Code Veronica only Chris can use the Magnum, and he only plays them throughout the game. And I get RE2 is more action than RE1. But this is ridiculous. In Leon B, Pipe Birkin took 8 Magnum rounds. Train Birkin took 11, but I think he might have been dead at 10. If you use the upgraded Magnum parts, the Super Tyrant only takes 3 shots. True Ending Blob Birkin takes 1 leftover Mr. X rocket and 5 Magnum shots. With the exception of that 1 rocket, Magnum was the only weapon I ever used on bosses, and it only took 27 rounds to kill them all. That's 45 rounds left over. That's right, I had more Magnum ammo left over in RE2 than there is in all of RE1 and Code Veronica combined. I'm not positive if I found all of them, but the ammo isn't even hidden that well. It is very easy to find. Now, this isn't a game-ruining thing. In the end, it doesn't really matter that much if you have 10 bullets left or 50. But I wish it was balanced a little better. In every other game, it's your most precious commodity, and here you're just surrounded by it at all times. All I know is next time I play this game, I'm magnuming every liquor I see because why not? So the sewers are after the police station, and this is where the game loses steam. The sewers are a bad area. It's not like it ruins the game or anything, but it's disappointing. The game starts getting heavier on story and getting short on level design. The sewers are both extremely dull and have the potential to frustrate. They are very linear, with both no zombies to fight nor any decisions to be made. You start here, and optimally played, the sewers go like this. Run through these 2 areas. There are spiders here, and on paper, spiders seem like a good enemy. Real spiders are terrifying, let alone mutant spiders. But here, it's just so easy to run past them, I don't know if I've ever been hit by them. All they do is drop acid on you, and it's so easy to avoid. It's not like I know the trick to them. A first-time player would probably not want to fight them, because they are positioned at weird angles and might be hard to hit, so they just think, alright, I'll just run past them. If they get in my face or attack me, then I'll fight back. But they never do either of those things, so nothing ever happens. So, start, run, see your waterfall that needs 2 medallions to get through, cutscene, then something interesting, get medallion, go upstairs, get other medallion, they're right next to each other with no enemies, go back down, leave. Everything after that is a linear path until the labs. So let's go back a bit. Before you get the first medallion, it's guarded by a giant alligator, which is super cool and memorable, alligators are dope, but it's not a normal boss fight. It's more of a puzzle, which I would like, but there isn't really anything for the player to try and do or figure out. They just run away for a second and the solution presents itself. This thing falls off the wall, then he eats it. It doesn't take a genius to try and shoot it. The gator blows up and that's it. Kind of strange part of the game. The alligator is all flash and no substance. Nothing interesting on repeat playthroughs and only cool for like 5 seconds in the initial. Okay, so an optimal playthrough goes like this. Run past 2 rooms, cutscene, gator, metal, upstairs, metal, backtrack through this. Then pure, linear enemy rooms. That's optimal. But see, it's very easy to be unprepared. See, you need this evolve here to lower the bridge. There is no indication that you will need it. And the item box is decently far away. If you don't have it, you gotta go back past the spiders again, and it's annoying. I don't have any problems with backtracking the police station. A lot of the time the players can predict what they need or have seen the place they're going already, so they know what to bring. You might have to go through like 2 rooms to get to the item boxes, which is completely acceptable. In the sewers, there was no hint that you will need the Valve, unless you were like, huh, that Valve didn't disappear when I used it. A sewer seems like the place to use it, but that would take an extreme amount of foresight. Look, it's not the end of the world that you gotta backtrack for like 3 minutes to get a Valve. It doesn't make the game a 7 out of 10. It's just annoying and not great design. I don't automatically hate the sewers because it's linear and simple. I actually think a simple small area was needed after the police station to give the players a break mentally for a bit. I just don't like how it was done. Before we get to the final area, let's go over the puzzles. The puzzles in this game are super weak. Okay, there's many different types of things that could be classified as puzzles. There's just figuring out what to do and where to go. Inserting a thing into a thing could be considered a puzzle, but I consider those to be more problem solving. The actual puzzly puzzles are bad. There's a lot of criteria to consider when evaluating a Resident Evil puzzle. How easy/hard is it to solve? Is it satisfying to solve? Once you know what to do, is it annoying or take a while to finish solving, or can you clear it quickly? How realistic/stupid is it? Does it seem like something these characters would actually do if they were in this situation? Resident Evil 2 pretty much fails all of these. Most of the puzzles in the game are in the police station, and that setting just does not work for the types of puzzles it contains. It's the station's critical flaw. In the original game, I could buy you having to do weird things to make items appear. It was in a creepy, abandoned mansion. The mansion in-universe was designed to have a bunch of traps and be weird. I can suspend whatever disbelief I may have in the mansion setting. In Resident Evil 2, you're in a police station. There's a ton of officers going around it every day doing work. Like, how did none of this stuff ever come up? The game tries to justify things by saying it used to be an art gallery, but that only justifies the weird architecture you see. And I know the apocalypse basically happened, so things aren't in the best shape, but that's not good enough. I could get distracted by this minor thing for a while, but let's just talk about the puzzles in a video game sense before I lose my mind. The first puzzly puzzle is the worst in the game. The god of sun and the god of moon. Their gaze upon me is the only thing that can release red soul. Sounds promising, but it's not. There's 2 statues and 2 obvious switches to put them on. I hate pushing block puzzles in general, but this one both requires no thought to solve and takes what feels like forever to push these blocks around. Not fun in the slightest. Next is the library. You see this picture in the library, you have to match the actual bookcases with the picture, not hard. Light the painting. Find a lighter and light the fireplace so a jewel falls out of a painting. Easy to put together. Lighter lights fireplace. It's incredibly weird in universe. Look, I'm not mad the puzzles are easy. These are just lame, they don't make much sense. You push this step ladder like 2 feet to climb it. Does that count? The next one I actually kind of like. It involves math, which I hate, but luckily it's super easy and you don't actually have to do math. You have to power this generator to like 80 power units or whatever, and the switch is to either raise it by 36 or lower it by 14. There's 5 switches. I don't know about you, but I never did any math here and just eyeballed it. Okay, let's raise it twice. Getting kind of close and there's 3 switches left, better lower it. Let's put it back up. Oh shoot, we're too high now. Better lower it. Oh hey, I solved it. There's a crate pushing thing, which those always suck, but here, they're basically already in position and don't even have to think about where to put them. And lastly, another good one. Light the Queen, King, and Jack. On the wall, there's 3 torches with the numbers 11, 12, and 13. In cards, King is the highest number of the 3 and Jack is the lowest. So you light them at 12, 13, 11, and get a gear to fall out. This is the best puzzle in the game, but that's basically all of the puzzles in the game, and most were bad. It's not just me. Reviewers at the time in 1998 criticized the puzzles for being too easy. This is one area the original blew the sequel out of the water. Oh well, it's much better to be too easy than it is to be frustratingly obtuse. On to the labs. The labs are a very cool looking area visually, definitely get a Star Wars vibe. The labs are an upgrade over the sewers, but still a little disappointing. I'm not mad that it doesn't have the size or complexity of the RPD, but I feel like something's a little off. I feel like they had ideas for this place, but were short on time to implement them correctly. You start here and find that the main room needs power. The red area is locked, so you head in the blue. One door is locked, one you can never go in, and this door is also locked. A weird thing about the labs in Claire is that 4 rooms are completely optional. You head in this room and I feel like a puzzle was cut or something. What you need is just lying there, and you turn around and put it in this thing? Like, what's the point? There's no puzzle or anything. You bring it back to the main room and get the power running. The whole thing just feels completely pointless. The power could have just been on from the start. In the labs, you basically go down, then up, then back down. And there isn't really much thinking required to figure out where to go. Honestly, I don't have much to say, so I'm just going to show you. The labs really could have used some puzzles to spice things up. It's just kind of boring, and making the vaccine seems too easy. There's a lot of story here, so it's not a boring part of the game, it's just the gameplay's a little thin. Here's the route. It could speak for itself. At least the B scenario is pretty different. Here's the progression in the beginning for Leon B. So Leon goes through a much shorter city part and enters the station on the second floor through the helipad. You see the helicopter crash because of the world's single dumbest man. You then go through here, encounter Mr. X, then there's a bunch of liquors, and you get the card key from here instead of from Marvin. Just some slight changes make it seem fresh, not like you're playing literally the same game again. One thing about Leon's campaigns, you don't actually need the spade key. You get it from the main hall from the statue, but the unicorn medal's not in the star's office, it's just hanging on the second floor. But the only two doors that key unlocks are the file storage, which only is a healing item, so you don't need to go there ever, and up here, in this corridor. But you can just go through here, through the library, and unlock it yourself. So you don't actually need to ever get that key, which is cool. So as Leon, you start off with a different route, and then it's kind of the same, but you have a lot more freedom, and then you end up, the basement's a lot different. You go to the parking lot and the cell block, so you get new areas there. The sewers are pretty much the same as both characters, but the labs are pretty different. Leon gets this whole new factory area. Claire just basically takes the train the whole way down, really visits the 4th and 5th floor, but Leon, you gotta do some more stuff. It's not great, but it's new, unique content, makes it feel different. So the way they mix it up for the B scenario is police station, you do in a different order stuff at the beginning, and the labs are pretty different. Oh yeah, there's one more thing I haven't mentioned yet. Mr. X. In the B scenario, this trench coat wearing tyrant will periodically drop in on you to see how you are doing. I love his design, but Mr. X is strangely forgettable. Nemesis just made him lose whatever thunder he had. Outside his designated boss fight, he only appears like 5 times. Those aren't like long, memorable encounters either. All you do is run past him and he disappears. You might get hit once, but who cares? He's gone once you hit that door. I will admit, one encounter got me. The first time I played this game, I had saved in a bit. I was about to go do the lighter card puzzle to get the gear. I was like, nothing's down there, I already cleared it out, don't need to save. I did the puzzle, and Mr. X's Kool-Aid Man routine got me good. This is his first appearance after his intro, and there's a huge gap between them. I ran out of there, and was in danger with no heals, and was super relieved I barely survived. Or I thought. When he smashed through that second wall, my heart really jumped, and I knew I was finished. I felt like an idiot for both not saving when I had the chance, and letting Mr. X scare me like that. So that encounter is great, but the rest are just kinda you just run past him. He did lay a great foundation for Nemesis though, and it's just like a nice little bonus thing to spice up the B scenario. He's cool enough, just not a super important element of the game. Hold up, one last final thing to talk about. The interaction between the A and B scenarios, also known as the zapping system. There is officially 9 possible zaps, but only like 4 matter. In the basement, there's a machine gun and a side pack that increases your inventory. You can take one, both, or neither. Whatever you take isn't there in the B scenario. I like this. It's cool and leads to some tough choices on your first playthrough. There's also these 2 broken shutters. You find one cord and can fix one of them. In the A game, it makes the hallway you used it in safe. In the B, the shutter you did use it in will break and zombies will appear. And strange enough, the other hallway will be safe. And if you never used it, then both hallways will be dangerous. There's also a secret room you can get to in the B that requires both characters to register their fingerprints. It has 3 lickers in either a machine gun or machine gun bullets. And a corpse of a hunter in the N64 version. Those are the main ways you can affect the game. There's also minor things like zombie Marvin or the alligator still being alive in B if you didn't kill them in A, or the plants could be a little tougher if you turn on the gas in A. The zapping system didn't have that much effect on the game, but it's a cool idea. I can see why they didn't do more with it. They probably didn't want players to potentially make the B scenario too hard or too easy. It could have been used more, but I'm not super upset it's not. I would like it to come back in a future game though, where it could really be used up to its full potential. So that's about it for Resident Evil 2. Incredible atmosphere with memorable locations, and it has my favorite OST of the classic games. The RPD is masterful level design, while the sewers and labs trail off a bit. The plot picks up, and I actually enjoy this Resident Evil story. It's the most accessible classic Resident Evil, and a sequel that really escalated everything and expanded the world. It holds up pretty well, as you probably figured out, and it's still a good game 20 years later.